So the last one has to do with bosses, strong bosses. But I like to use the term in Japan, strong bosses under constraints. You may be surprised if you look at back in the 1970s or 80s in the works of Geert Hofstede, that the Japanese culture was not rated very high on the hierarchical level. And that was obviously a mystery for somebody who didn't take into account that the Japanese boss has to be a strong boss. He is a strong boss, has many signs of power, can give an incredible amount of influence on his organization, and as we said, he's a decision maker, but he's got to be loved, appreciated, supported by his group and by his community and by his teams. Otherwise, he wouldn't make it to the top of the organization. He wouldn't make it at all as a manager. And therefore, the boss has to be strong in Japan, no doubt. And when I think in terms of that, let's also keep in mind the expatriates. Let's also keep in mind the Western managers who work in the distance with their Japanese staff over there. You have to be strong, know that you have to show the way, but you certainly have to go well beyond what you would usually do. First thing, that if you were an expatriate, know that you wouldn't escape going and drink with your people after work. And this is obviously a sort of stereotype, but that is still true despite the 20 years of crisis that Japan has undergone. Going and drinking long hours, no doubt. The first obligation. Let me go to the second one. What is this this medical doctor here? It's just to remind us that a typical good boss would certainly go and if one of his person in his team is hospitalized or pretty sick for a serious reason, he would go home or he would go to the hospital for 1, 2, or 3, or 10 of them. And there again, it takes you a little bit further than we would in most countries in the West. Let me go to the very, very bad news now. Let's suppose that this is a funeral ceremony. This is a funeral, and this image just says, if somebody in your team, or if somebody, not your employee, I'm talking about the father of your employee, the mother of your employee, somebody extremely dear to one of your team members disappears, it wouldn't be unusual that the Japanese boss go and attend these funeral ceremonies. So sorry to be so sad. Let's finish on a positive tone. Wedding. So yes, you do have to go to wedding of your people in your team. You do have to go to wedding to the very dear people of your team. And sometimes you have to do the matchmaker. That is the very Japanese way to do that. You remember that a couple of years ago, it wouldn't be unusual for the head of a department to say to the young Yamamoto, hey, do you know that Kyoko, the young girl in the other department, is still a single? She's 24, or she's 28. Isn't it time that you get a stronger interest in her? That'd be a nice couple. And the matchmaker, which was also another profession, but mostly for ladies, but the role of the strong boss, the shacho means literally the CEO, roughly speaking, the head of the company. It's not the president. The shacho would probably, and all managers in the line would have to cope with these sort of obligations. So drinking, disease, disappearance, and wedding, and quite a few things takes you well beyond the usual obligation. So it's tough life for expatriates over there if they really want to go the Japanese way. Matthew, I think I'm done.
There seems to be a collective relief, a sigh of relief I'm hearing from all Western managers. They shut up their briefcase at 6:30 and get the train home. and they're not crowded onto the train by professional pushers. Thank you very much, Laurent. That's brilliant, and a bit of nice time management. So I know some of our guys are very busy, so if you have to rush off, you have to rush off. A recording of this will be available, and feel free to forward this to your buddies and colleagues. Let's now just look at a couple of questions and see if we can round this out, and feel free to type. So in the question box or in the chat box, just pop a question, chuck it to me, and then we can ask our Japanese expert, Laurent. And what I like about you, Laurent, you are an unashamed French person, and it's so you've got your European eyes, your French eyes, and looking into Japan, and you seem to be able to switch in and out of that, which I think is hugely useful. So we've got a very different sort of orientation here. We've talked about the outsider looking in. How would you advise the Japanese to communicate when visiting the UK, or we'll generalize that to Europe, and joining a group of international managers? So we haven't really talked about how they would adapt, but any quick ideas on that?
Yeah, very, very quick. I would advise them to go and dare say, to go and dare speak, and saying most of the Westerners are used to hearing that, and it is safe. It is safe. So it's our responsibility, Westerners, to show and to live up to our words, to show that for a Japanese person to dare say his opinion, to dare go a bit further than he would usually go, is absolutely safe, and that you appreciate it. So no bigger word than Yamamoto-san. Yamamoto-san, truly, I thank you for daring say this opinion. This sort of word is extremely strong to create the appropriate team culture that is necessary. And then, if you look at it from the Westerner, then it's our responsibility also to try to read between the lines. And to say, Kumamoto-san, if I get you right, you're trying to say that the goods are not going to be delivered on that day. Am I correct? I hope I'm not misinterpreting it. And so it goes both ways. Our recommendation to the Japanese: dare, and show them that it's safe. On your side, the Westerners, it's our responsibility to try to read between the lines and to make the simple, respectful words on the unspoken or on our understanding.